Welcome to Yes Fest 2014. We are very excited about the opportunity that we have here today. Excited because we feel like everybody will be able to take something away from today's event. We would like to welcome our guests, our sponsors, our families, our friends, members of the Board of Education, and our very supportive Superintendent, Mr. Lazzari. What is the Yes Fest? It's a reminder to say no to drugs and yes to the positive opportunities that we have before us. For me, it's knowledge and wisdom, the need for both. Knowledge, we understand the negative effects that drugs can have on our lives. The challenge is applying the wisdom, the ability to make the right decisions in life when we are faced with these great challenges. The Yes Fest is the coming together of adults, students, our community to provide positive opportunities for you, the students of Boardman High School. So what is our motivation behind this? In 2013, on the dates of July 25th, September 30th, and October 5th, in the span of just 4 months, we lost 3 members of the Spartan family to drug-related deaths, and we don't want to lose another. Last year, we were fortunate to share the first Yes Fest with our friends from Cardinal Mooney, and there will be representatives from Austintown, Struthers, and other schools with us here today. We welcome them. We are also blessed that in November, we will be presenting the Yes Fest to the Ohio School Board Association Conference in Columbus. And now for our first speaker. Mr. Trell isn't here today to tell you some crazy tale about people that you can't relate to. Instead, he will share with you the story of a loving family. A family that vacationed together, attended sporting events together, spent their holidays together, went to the beach together. His family is very much like our families. Let's give a big Spartan welcome to our special guest, Mr. Trell. Thanks, Trell.
Well, good morning, everybody. You know, it was easy last week when we kind of went through some rehearsal, but now that you're all sitting here looking at me, it's a little bit different. I'm certainly not a professional speaker, so I'm going to ask that you bear with me a little bit, but I want to say thank you all for coming. First of all, I really believe in this event. I think this is a fantastic event, and although I'm here because of a tragedy in our family, I think the event stands on its own. You know, you might be asking, why am I sitting here listening to this guy? And quite frankly, I know some of you will. Some of you will listen to me, and some of you won't. And that's okay, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. What I'm hoping to reach is just some of you that might want to hear what the story was behind what I believe happened inside of our family. And it's going to be very tough to talk about. I'm going to tell you that right now. And a year later, it's still very raw. But, you know, I guess probably the biggest thing that, and I heard Mr. Cardillo mention it, is, you know, you're faced with decisions and choices every day, and you're young. And it would be nice to think that, you know, every decision you make is the right one. But the important thing is that when you do make decisions or choices or any of those type of things, that you discuss them openly. Maybe it's a good friend, or maybe it's not a good friend. Maybe it's a parent or a guidance counselor or something like that. I think it gives you an opportunity, because you have to understand, when you make that decision or that choice, it can have some pretty significant, long-lasting implications, okay? And certainly a choice is kind of like Mr. Saxton and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's kind of a selfish thing. You're making a decision for yourself, okay? But should those decisions turn into tragedy like they did with my daughter, they have very long-lasting implications. So, you know, when Mr. Cardillo asked me to speak here today, I told him yes right away. I had the opportunity very soon after Aaron's death if I wanted to say a few words, and there was no way I could do that, even though when your event was last year, I sat right back there and I listened to the speakers. There were two parents who lived a very similar thing to me. And they ripped my heart out. I mean, they really did. They just absolutely tore my heart out. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I can't imagine that I could possibly get up there and do that. But then, Mr. Cahoot got up, and Mr. Cahoot spoke. And Mr. Cahoot kind of lifted me back up, and I thought, you know what? He talked about how you can be great. And one of the things that Mr. Cahoot said to me last night through a Facebook message was, you're not, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it was something like, you're not what you do, you're who you are. Or what was it, Dave? Where were you at?
What you do is not who you are.
Right. And those are the two things that I think, as he said that, I started putting it into context of what I was going to discuss here today, because I don't believe that Erin was what happened to her. I think she was much more than that. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Pardon me? My wife and I said very soon after Erin's death that we, quite frankly, never wanted to see this happen to any other parent in the Boardman school system or anywhere for that matter. And shortly thereafter, we had another tragedy in the Boardman family. But I think this is a good first step in trying to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Because I can tell you that over the last year, what my wife and I and family have lived through is like a 1,000-pound weight on your back. It sits on the back of your neck every day, and it's impossible to get away from. It just sits there, and it's in everything you do and everything you touch. And, quite frankly, I don't want it to go away, because it makes me think of her. So the pictures you see flashing behind you are of Erin. She graduated here in 2013. We had a graduation party for her, and 4 months later she was gone. I also have I have 3 daughters, 2 that are living, okay? Alexis is a 21-year-old senior at Meredith College down in Raleigh, North Carolina. And to put some context on her, she's a 4.0 student. She's the president of her class down there and has been since her sophomore year. I also have a 7th grader here at Glenwood Middle School, Maddie, who's very active in sports and various other things, so some of you may know her. I know the softball players do. So tomorrow marks an anniversary of sorts. It's the anniversary of Erin being admitted into St. Elizabeth's Hospital. At 5:30 in the morning tonight, the Boardman police were knocking on our door because they couldn't get a hold of us on our home line. I looked out the window, and all I saw was flashing lights. And I thought, oh my God, here we go. So I went downstairs, answered the door, and I don't even remember who the officer was, and he says, you need to get ready, and you need to go to St. Elizabeth's, and you need to go downtown, and you need to get there quickly. Well, you don't kind of have to be a genius to know that something very bad has happened. Was she in a car accident? What happened? So nobody will tell you anything. So we get down to the hospital. They put us in a back room. A doctor and a nurse come out to speak with my wife and I. We're in this back room of waste, and it's explained to us that Erin has had a cardiac arrest and actually has had 2. She was brought into the hospital not breathing, and they were able to revive her. So shortly thereafter, they moved Erin to a neurological intensive care unit. And that was probably about 6:30 in the morning, and because we hadn't had the opportunity to get showered or anything, my wife had gone home, picked up her mother, and they came back down to meet me at the hospital. As my wife is walking by Erin's room, and she checks in on her, a doctor is on top of our daughter giving her a resuscitation and asking, do you want me to stop? Do you want me to stop? Now, how do you answer that? How do you answer that type of a question, that, to stop CPR on your 18-year-old daughter? You can't. So they were able to sustain a heartbeat for a period of time, and over the next day or so, not much changed. There was no fluctuation in her. She was essentially in a coma, unable to speak or breathe on her own, and they decided to do what I thought was very interesting, and I had never seen it done before, but they wrapped Erin's body in a cold pack, and they fed cold liquid through her to try to get her body temperature down to a manageable degree so that they could warm it back up to see if there was any brain function left. And they did that over about a 12-hour period, and then they warm her up over 6 hours, and basically what they're looking for is any sign of life. Is there any sign of life in this body? Now, put yourself in our shoes. I mean, it's the toughest thing in the world to even think about, to have to sit there and watch this, and all you have is hope. and you have hope that you're going to see some kind of movement in her. And when you don't, it's the most crushing blow you could ever imagine. So, think about that for a second. Now, a couple days later, Erin passed away, and, we stood kind of vigil over her for a couple days, and she just wasn't going to make it. We met with the neurologist. The neurologist said, hey, there's just no way. You're not going to recognize her, and even if she was to come out of it, there's not going to be anything left. So, now one thing that's important that I think you need to know is that it wasn't because Erin took a lot of drugs that night, okay? We call an overdose, and the perfect thing that we all think of, or not perfect thing, but the thing that we all think of when you talk overdose is, wow, she must have taken a ton of drugs. And some of that's true. What she did was she took a quantity of different things, and those things mixed together are what stopped her heart. Now, independently of themselves, she would have had no issue. But she was 5 foot tall and 95 pounds. And the quantity of those drugs stacked upon each other literally stopped her heart. So when you talk about overdose, it's not always just about the fact that you took too much of something, but you may have mixed something that shouldn't be mixed together. So, we kind of believe she was self-medicating a little bit, but we don't know. We ask ourselves really kind of daily about why that night? Why not any other night, but why specifically that night? We know at 2 o'clock in the morning through the investigation into Erin's death that at 2 o'clock in the morning, Erin had dropped off a friend of hers not even 2 miles away from our house. We don't know why she didn't come home that night. She didn't. We think it's because she had promised a ride home to a couple boys that were at the party that she was at. We also know that from 3:15 to about 4 o'clock in the morning, Erin was texting a friend of hers that lives out of state and holding very coherent text. So we think she was okay about that point, because how could she be texting these coherent texts at 4 o'clock in the morning, but by 4:15 or 4:30, she was already in the hospital in cardiac arrest. So whatever happened after 4 o'clock in the morning in about a 15-minute span, and I think that really shows you just how fragile life is. So, obviously there's so many questions unanswered about Erin's situation, and Erin's never going to be here again to be able to help us answer those questions. So we just keep going on, and it's tough to do. So how do we get to this point? Let's kind of take a look back at Erin's life. As you can see up in the pictures, Erin led a relatively normal childhood. Would I say we moved around quite a bit? We definitely moved around quite a bit. But, we've been here for 13 years. So I think she was a fairly normal kid anyways, at least I'd like to think so. She went to St. Charles from kindergarten through 4th grade and transferred over to the Boardman schools from 5th to 8th, and then consequently came to Boardman High School. Now, Erin wasn't much of a participator in things, and I think this goes very well with this Yes Fest that we're talking about. She didn't like to be involved in a lot of stuff because her preference was to kind of sit back and watch. She danced. She ran a little bit of track at Glenwood. And funny thing is, I never realized that she was even fast because she didn't play softball or she didn't play sports. So I never realized she was fast. And one day we were on the beach in the Outer Banks, and my oldest daughter says to me, you need to race Erin because I think she's faster than you. And I said, it can't be. There's no way. I used to anchor the 400 relay in 7th grade, so there's no way she could be faster than me. So we raced, and she actually beat me pretty badly. In my defense, I wasn't in great shape at the time, but hey, she still did beat me, so I realized right away how fast she was. So, the other thing, too, we signed her up for the YMCA League in softball back when she was about this big. And I'll never forget, she went out and played second base in the top half of the first inning, and she was due to come and bat, and she went and sat by her mom because she wouldn't bat. So then the next inning, she went out to second base again, and then she had to bat again, and she wouldn't bat because they batted a continuous order, so she wouldn't bat again. So then she didn't want to go out in the field, and that was the end of her softball career. But the thing that I'm trying to get to is she didn't participate in much. She didn't have anything that really kept her from getting involved in the negative things. And as we talk about the Yes Fest and you go over that gym, you're going to have some opportunities to look at some different organizations here at Boardman High School and in the community. And I would ask that you all look at them very carefully. You know, the one thing that Erin did do was she volunteered down at the Beatitude House with her older sister. And on Thursdays, they would drive down there after school, and they would watch the kids when their parents, it's a battered women's shelter, and when their parents needed to go to a group meeting, Erin and Alexis would both watch the kids. But I would say that Erin's life really hit stride when Maddie was born. They were best friends. There was a lot of times where we'd wonder where Maddie was at, and Maddie would be down in the basement with Erin, and they would be talking about rap songs, or they'd be talking about boys. And Maddie was maybe, 4 and 5 years old at this point, and they're talking about boys. And, I remember Erin sitting around the island one time saying to her mom and I take my love life advice from a 7-year-old. So, that's how close her and Maddie were, and they were close right up until her death. But to be honest with you, over the last year or two of Erin's life, they started to split a little bit because Erin was involved in so many different things and kind of spiraling a little bit, I guess, out of control, if you want to use that term. And Maddie was involved in other things like sports and those stuff, so they kind of crossed each other from time to time, but they still every once in a while would take time out for each other, and that was really a neat thing. So the other thing, Erin, in the month before her passing in August, had gone down to visit her older sister down in Raleigh. And she but she was down there with my daughter and her roommates, and she really had a great time. And so that was a neat thing that she got to experience before she passed. But one thing about Erin, she really didn't like trips. Hated we made car trips. We didn't fly. We always drove to any trips. So by about 9th grade, she didn't always join us on all the family vacations unless we flew. So I think the last one that she took with was her sophomore year when we took the softball team down to Florida. Now you might be sitting back asking yourself, when did Erin start using drugs? Well, I know one thing. I know it was earlier than we probably knew and a lot more serious than we probably wanted to admit. I think some of it combines with the fact that when she turned 16, she got a car. And at that point in time, she had independence. And that was very tough for us to keep a grip on where she was. We knew we had a problem by March of her sophomore year. We knew we were into a little bit of a problem. We didn't know how deep, but we knew we had a problem. But with the car came independence. And one thing that I felt like Erin had an issue with was making good decisions. And and her mother warned me against the car, and I let her have it anyway. And today I kicked myself for that. And but I know that we kind of tried to do everything we could. Man, her cell phone was an appendage, like probably all of yours are, to your hand. And we wanted to track her, so we got on the AT&T family map and tracked her cell phone. Now, she was pretty good at deception. She could hide, and oftentimes when she said she was someplace, she wasn't there. And there were times where we got in the car at 11:30, 12 o'clock to go find her and bring her home. And sometimes we had to do just that. But now we're in her sophomore year, and now the summer of her sophomore year, and she's got a car, and she's driving all over the place. We can't keep track of her. We're losing control of her. And she just, is trying to avoid dealing with the family as much as possible. So at that point in time, we started a battery of counseling. We took her to 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 different centers. And we thought we got somewhat of a breakthrough when she got a designation of being somewhat bipolar. And we thought, well, this is great. We finally have something that maybe we can treat and get her straightened around. But she didn't like the way the drugs made her feel. I believe that they made her feel like normal, like maybe all of you feel every day. And they weren't enough for her, and she just didn't like it. So when she stopped taking those, I think she started self-medicating even more at that point, and it had disastrous consequences. So what was Erin really like? In general, Erin was a good kid. She had a lot of the young teen issues that you guys all have, or maybe you've experienced them recently or in the past. She fought with her mom, she fought with me, she fought with her little sister, but in general, she was a sweet kid. She had a huge heart. You know, you have to think about some things that were going on inside our household. I mean, you know, you had this craziness. You had one kid who was a senior in high school, a straight-A student. Then you had this sophomore who was kind of just going out of control. And then you had a little girl 7 years younger who really needed the support of her parents and stuff. So, you know, there was that little bit of turmoil going on, and it stretched over a period of the next couple years. But we all thought that, you know, we had a break when she was diagnosed, but it didn't help. So, you know, did Erin have friends? You know, Erin had a ton of friends. Erin had friends from different schools. She never wanted anybody to go out with on a Friday or Saturday night. She was always with somebody or some you know, in a group for years. So, and that didn't change all the way up until the time where she passed away. She had a huge heart, and to tell you a funny story, Erin would drive down into Youngstown and all around because she had friends from Ursuline and Mooney and various other places. And she drove by this house where a friend of hers had rented a home there. And he had a dog, and it was a little puppy, and he left it out on the front porch in the very cold weather. And she drove by, and she said, you know what, that's just not right. That little baby dog is sitting out there on the front porch. And she decided that on the way back that she would look again and see if she was out on the front porch again, and there she was. There's this little dog sitting on the front porch in the freezing cold weather. So she knocks on the door, and she says to the kid, hey, let the dog inside the house. And he says, well, I'm a renter. I can't have dogs inside the house. And she said, well, why'd you get him then? Why I wanted a dog? Well, that's kind of the decision making that we all make sometimes, right? Just kind of a quick decision, and then you wish that you hadn't made it. Well, she looks at the dog, and she says very clearly to him, if I come back here again and I see that dog sitting on the porch, I'm taking him. Well, he laughed. He laughed and said, you'll never do it. You don't have the guts to do it. We own that dog now, by the way. And she's about 1.5 years old, and her name's Gracie. And, you know, she's one of our favorite things that we have in the family right now because it helps us remember just what she was like. So what do I believe that Erin would want me to say on her behalf because she can't speak for herself? Well, I know there's a couple things that you need to know. Erin would tell you that she cheated herself. She was a very bright girl. I always thought that she was brighter than my oldest daughter because she had a certain amount of street smart that my oldest daughter didn't have. My oldest daughter was very book smart. Erin was book smart if she worked at it, and also street smart. And so she had that combination. Beautiful girl, the looks. I knew she could go places if she could just get straightened out. And so that's what I was working for, was to try to get her straightened out. And it didn't work, but she would tell you she cheated herself. She cheated herself out of graduating college. She cheated herself out of getting married, having kids, all the milestones in a young kid's life. When your parents look at you, your parents, they celebrate the things that you do. And even if that means that you're going from your sophomore year to your junior year, your parents are excited by that. Or somebody is. If it's not your parents, it's somebody else. So they care about you guys. Somebody cares about you. If it's a teacher or a guidance counselor, somebody cares. And you need to know that and make sure that you maintain that contact with that person. So, you know, the one thing, too, is that, you know, I mean, her sisters are going to get married and have kids, and they're not going to have an Aunt Erin because Aunt Erin's gone, okay? So how do you explain that down the road? I mean, it's almost impossible to even think of. I believe that Erin would also tell you that she wished she had got involved in more things. We used to try to encourage her to get involved in the boosters and do whatever she could in the school so that she wasn't coming home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with absolutely nothing to do. And, you know, when you have nothing to do like that, you'll fill your time. And the people who you're calling are people that also have nothing to do. So you're getting together, you both have nothing to do, and it can't go well. That's just the bottom line on that. She would also tell you, and I know she would tell you this, that drugs cost her her life. It cost her her life starting in about whenever she started, but to me, her sophomore year and beyond. All of you in this room have an option today. You have an option that when you walk out of this room and you go over into that gym, that you make yourself a positive impact on this community and also with your life. You're going to see a bunch of different organizations over there that not only need you, but want you, whether that be here in school or outside organizations. And I hope that you'll look at them very carefully and do something for somebody else other than just yourself. Okay? By signing up over there, by being a volunteer, you're going to be doing something for somebody else. And that's okay, because in reality, that's the mark of good character. Now, I've talked a little bit about some of the negative things and some of the positive things with Aaron. And just to wrap up, one of the things that Aaron, well, let me give you the story. In August of 2013, I mentioned that Aaron went down to North Carolina. And in August of 2013, she needed to fly. She was flying down to Raleigh to visit her sister. And she said to me 2 days before, because I had no idea, "Hey, I lost my license. I got to get a license. I can't fly if I don't have the license." And I'm like, "Okay, let's go down to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and get a license." So we go to get a license. And the lady at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, after taking the picture and all that, says, "Aaron, do you want to be an organ donor?" And Aaron says yes. And I look at Aaron and I'm like, "Really?" And she says back to me, "Yeah, Dad, I don't know why everybody's not an organ donor." So the story doesn't really end. It's obviously a huge tragedy for us, but also in the end, Aaron, to me, became a hero. Because in her death, Aaron actually was able to give life. So, and she did a selfless act at the end. And I thank you for listening to me today. I hope you get something out of this, and enjoy the rest of the day, because I think you're in for a fantastic one. But thank you.
Mr. Trell, as I shift this back over, you mentioned that you said Aaron was an organ donor. I don't know, did you ever find out, I don't even know, did they give you follow-up? Do you know?
Yeah, Aaron was a donation through what's a company called Life Bank. And what they do is they're responsible for organ donation. They're out of Cleveland. And when you're an organ donor, they actually begin, like when Aaron was in the hospital on Sunday, when this happened to her, it was like kind of Friday, Saturday, she was in the hospital, and then Sunday, Life Bank comes in and takes over the remainder of her care, similar to like what maybe a hospice would be like. Life Bank came in and they brought in their own nurses, and they work in conjunction with the staff, and then they fly in transplant surgeons from all over the country, because it's a very specialized, I don't know what, it's specialized, so to do organ donation and that transplanting, and they actually fly in transplant surgeons, and so they were able to use Aaron's kidneys, and they ended up being transplanted in a gentleman out of Atlanta. We don't get the information on who that is. We just know that it was a male in Atlanta. So that's, and if he would ever want to contact us for any reason, he has our information. We don't have his. So.
You know, when you were talking, you started talking a little bit about you don't know exactly when, you know, maybe you had some suspicions of when Aaron was maybe starting to use. And I'm not here to talk about Aaron, but what I'd like to talk about and take these last 10, 15 minutes and just to tie this up a little bit is just to kind of analyze what goes on in our lives. You know, as people, as human beings, I think deep down inside we're thrill seekers. We are. You know, whether you go to Cedar Point or you know, however you want to parachute, whatever, you go fast in your car, whatever, we're thrill seekers. But that takes us a lot of time, you know, right to the edge of where we need to be. You know, for example, now I'm talking, and I don't know, is anyone getting nervous that I'm getting a little close here? Now, some people say, "Oh, Mr. Saxton, you're a little close." Some people are saying, "I hope he falls over because that'd be pretty funny." You know, let's be honest. Some of you guys thought that, all right? But my point is, and I'm a little nervous standing here too. I probably wouldn't get hurt too bad if I fell, but I feel a lot better if I stood here and talked. My point is, here's what we tend to do in life. We tend to do that. We love to get to the edge. I don't know what's there. Maybe the view, maybe that little rise in us, but we love to be right there on the edge looking out. I don't know, is that scary to you guys, or is that exciting? Are some of you guys like, no way? Or are some of you guys saying, wonder where that's at, I'd like to go there? I mean, that's the nature in us. There's some people who say, I'm back here. And there's some people say, I'm that person, or that spot there is good for me. But that's what we do. For whatever reason, we like to get right to that edge. There's something there that attracts us, but if you stop and think about it for a second, you would not want to live there. You would not want to stay there. You would not want to camp out there, sleep there overnight. We're not made for that. But for some reason, we're attracted to it. I don't have the answer to that. But I can tell you, just like on that stage or when I came down here, when you take a couple steps back, you can still have the same view, but you feel a lot more relaxed. I don't know if you know what that's called. It's called margin. My first point to you guys, I don't know what happened in Aaron's life, but I can tell you it goes on in your lives, it goes on in my life. I'm not perfect, but I know when I start to get to that edge, whatever it is, whether it's my time, whether it's my money, whether it's my lifestyle, I tend to want to get to the edge, to the edge, to the edge, and when I can pull back and give myself a little margin, sometimes you call it breathing room, I feel a lot more peaceful. I feel a lot more calm. I feel a lot more rested. I actually have a lot more energy because even you guys do it. You may not have all kinds of money. You may not. You may not even have a job. So maybe money, but maybe when you get some, you spend every dollar of it and don't save any of it because you're spending to the ultimate limit. But let's talk about your time. I know a lot of you guys, because I see it in my own daughters, you want to fill up every single piece of your time. You want to fill up all the way to the edge. And the sad part is you guys live in a different world than we did. We didn't have the technology like you guys have. Your technology now is even causing you to do that. You fill up every waking moment being in contact or filling your time up. You don't want to be idle. And you feel like you're being successful and you feel like you're being productive, but really, that's not what we're designed to do. Unplug a little bit. I mean, even your phones have to recharge overnight. But I even watch my own daughters as they put those phones near their bed. Unplug. Give yourself some margin. That's my first point. When you feel yourself getting close to that edge, back off. Back off. It's not a healthy place to be. I don't care what the view is. Back off. Give yourself some breathing room. Give yourself some margin. Let's take a look at another height. If you take a look at that little that bridge out in the mountains there. Now that's a little bit higher up, but if you take a look at that picture on the left, that's not as bad if you were to walk along there because it has something. It has what we see over on the right. What are those called? Guardrails. Guardrails give us some comfort. Guardrails give us some protection. Guardrails make scary heights or limits a little less nervous, a little less unattractive. My question is, we all need to have guardrails in our lives. I know Mr. Trell and his wife and Aaron's sisters were trying to be a guardrail to her to keep her from getting closer and closer to that edge. But I ask you guys, do you have guardrails in your life? People, not the metal things. People, who are your guardrails? Who are the people in your life that maybe you're just sitting by idle, you don't really notice them, but they're there to stop you from getting too close to that edge. They tell you, back off. Get back to that margin. Are they your parents? Are they your teachers? Are they your administrators? Are they your friends? And I'm going to tell you, be careful when I say friends, because this may make some of you uncomfortable, because some of your friends don't want to be your guardrail. They want to say, get a little closer. Get a little closer. But a good friend, a true friend, will be a guardrail. Are you a guardrail? Or are you one of those people that's tempting someone to get a little closer because you think you're one of those people who thought it was kind of funny when I got close to the edge because you want to see what would happen. But are you a guardrail? Do you want to be a guardrail? Do you have a guardrail? Look at this guy. I love this guardrail. This is the kind of guardrail I want to be. This is the kind of guardrail I want to have in my life. Someone who will say, dangerous condition, do not climb on or over railing. And I love that last line. Don't even think about it. I've never seen that on a sign, but I thought that was a pretty cool picture. That's what I want to be to somebody. I won't even let them get close. I'm going to stand there. I'm going to stand strong. Do you have that? Can you be that? I've done this a little backwards. I've talked about edges and guardrails, but really, you guys don't know me. I was the principal before Mr. Cardillo. They went to Boardman High School 2.0, and brought in a pro. So maybe you've seen me around, or maybe you've heard me speak at different events. But let me just back up for a second. Now, I know here I am talking about edges, and I found this picture. I thought this was ironic. It looks like me and my daughters are standing on the edge of the world there. We're not. That's up in the Shenandoah Mountains, happened over the summer. And actually, if you step off the back of it, you only fall like 3 feet. But I thought it was a pretty cool picture. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about me. First of all, like I said, we're not on the edge. I have 3 daughters. One of them is Anna Saxton. She's a junior here, and when the juniors come in, she'll be completely embarrassed I showed this picture, but she'll get over it. And then I have twin girls that are at center. They're in 8th grade. And that's a little bit about me. I'm also a Boardman graduate. That's why I'm speaking here today, because you know what? I'm you. I may look a little different. I'm 48 years old. I'm 30-some years older than you. But I am you. I walked these halls. I didn't sit in this auditorium because it was a piece of grass back in the 80s, all right? But I walked these halls. I sat in the same seats that you guys sat in. I sat in the same chairs. Those chairs are 40-some years old. In the cafeteria. I am you. So when I was asked to speak, I got pretty excited because I said to myself, I got a chance to come back. It's like a time machine. And talk to myself, because I'm going to tell you, I may be 48, I may be dressed a little bit different than you, I may have a lot less hair, okay? I may have some more life experiences, but I'm going to tell you, if you could cut me open and pull me inside, I'm just a 15, 16-year-old kid sitting in an auditorium. I'm just a Boardman High School kid. We don't change. All right? Our shells change a little bit, but deep down inside, I hate to say this, you think about all this maturity. You're going to hit about 18, maybe maturity-wise inside, and you're going to stay a kid inside. Your body will get a little older, but you're going to stay inside. So when I had an opportunity to come talk to you, I said, here's a chance for me to come back and visit myself 30 years back in time. I used to teach math, and so I'm a little embarrassed to ask this, but I know you guys use math books. Do they still have the answers in the back of the book? Is it the odds? I couldn't remember if it was the odds or the evens. That's me getting old, but it's the odds, right? Just humorously, yes, Mr. Size, it's the odds. All right. I'm a math book with the answers in the back. I know some of the answers, so that's kind of what I'm doing today. Margin, guardrails, those are some of the answers in the back of the book. All right, that's good and bad, because if you're doing a problem and doing an algebra problem and you can't figure it out, you can go to the back of the book and get the answer. But you know from math class, if you just do 1 through 31 odd and write down all the answers, then hand it in, your teacher's going to say what? Where's the work? Show your work. So today I'm giving you some of the answers, but I'm not showing you any of the work. That's your job. Some of you have done the work and you understand that answer. Some of you have no clue what I'm talking about, and some of you guys aren't even listening to me anymore. You know what? That's okay. That's okay. I understand that, because remember, I was you. I understand that. I understand that mind works. Some of the stuff you're going to grasp. Just small seeds that we're planting. Some of you guys are going to water them and fertilize them. We're going to grow. Some of you are going to wait 20, 30 years, and they're going to say, I remember that guy I talked. Yeah, I remember that margin thing. I remember that. That's what I am. That's why I'm here today. Oh, and by the way, I do have a wife. She was taking a picture, so, I do have a wife, and she'll be really mad if that picture's up there. She's coming later, so I'll have to delete that before she gets here, so please don't tell her. Last topic. If I were to ask you right now, what do you really want in life? Really, what are you pursuing? Most of you guys are going to say success or happiness. Success or happiness. But you know what? Do we ever really talk about what it is? What is success or what is happiness? Because I tell you, you turn the TV on, or you get on the internet, or you get if you watch all the popular media, what are they going to tell you what success is? Go out and buy stuff. You got to have the car. You got to have that BMW, that brand new Corvette. You got to have that home in West Palm Beach or in the Bahamas. You got to have the right clothes. You got to have the right jeans. You got to have the right boots. That's success. That's what the world tells you. They keep telling you, go out and get, go out and get, go out and collect, go out and buy. Get this stuff, get this stuff, get this stuff. However, answers in the back of the book, what you're going to find out that success is really happiness. Happiness is really something you already have. You don't have to go buy it. Abraham Lincoln, I hope you guys remember who he is. We'll have to talk to some of these history teachers around here. Most folks are as happy as they make their minds up to be. You're not really looking for success, you're really looking for happiness, and you think happiness is going to be found in success. But what you're really looking for is what really all we want is we want to be happy. We want to have happiness. And here's the sad part. We all think it's a journey. It's a place we can go to, a place that we're going to arrive at. And when we get there, we're there forever. It's not a place. There's no mythical place called happiness. Happiness is right here. It's in here. And every day, you have a choice to make whether or not you're going to choose happiness. Mr. Trell made a choice. A year ago, he faced probably the worst tragedy a parent worries about. I got 3 daughters. That's why I connect with him. I can't, if I sit and say, I know how he feels. No, I don't. No, I don't. Not unless I've lost a daughter. And neither do you, unless you've lost a brother, sister, or close one. Only he knows how he feels. His wife knows how he feels. But you know what? He had a choice to make. He could be very bitter and say, you know, Boardman this, Boardman that, her friends this, that. He had a choice to make. You've heard this phrase before. He had a choice to become either bitter or better. And he said, you know what? I'm going to come better. I'm going to come better. I knew Mike Trell when he was in high school. I was a sophomore when he was a senior. We played football together. He was a tough kid. A tough kid. That's what I remember about Mike Trell. I know Mike Trell now as he coaches my kids and he coaches for the school. He's a caring and compassionate person. But let me tell you something about toughness. He's tougher than he ever was. To stand up here in front of 300 and some people and bare his soul in one of the toughest situations of his life, let me tell you what, that's tough. He made a choice for happiness. Secret to happiness. Don't go out and buy it. You're not going to get it. It's right here. Actually, the secret to happiness is just the opposite. We use the word greatness instead of happiness. True greatness stands on the opposite end of the spectrum from self-centeredness. When you buy stuff, it's for you, it's for you, it's for you, it's for me, it's for me, it's for me. But you need to flip that. That's where you're going to find happiness. The true value of a life is never measured by how much someone collected, but rather by how much they gave away. This is the answer in the back of the book that you may not understand, but you will. When you leave today, you're going to remember a couple things about Aaron. You're going to see some pictures, but you know what probably had the most impact on you is what he said at the end. Did he talk about the kind of jeans Aaron had, the kind of car she drove, what kind of iPhone she had? He talked about what she gave away at the end, and that probably had the most impact on you. You have a wonderful opportunity here to go find this happiness. You're going to find it by actually losing yourself, by giving yourself away. When you walk over in that gymnasium, you have a chance to give yourself away and serve others and quit serving yourself. One is too small of a number for greatness and happiness. When you share, when you give yourself away, when you join other groups, answer in the back of the book, so you may not understand it till you do the work. That's where you're going to find happiness. Take a chance. Go over in that gymnasium a little bit here. Sign up for one thing. I dare you. Don't just laugh and say, okay, we're out of class. Sign up. Just give it an hour. Try an hour. Come on. 1 hour. Margin. You can find an hour in a day. Give 1 hour. See how it makes you feel. Serve somebody else. Spread a little kindness somewhere else. In closing, greatness, happiness, it's inside of you. It's not a place. You don't go out and buy it. You don't go out and grab it. You actually give it away and you find it. And I know that's really strange because sometimes the answers in the back of the book's really strange. But greatness, like happiness, is a choice. It's inside of you. If you feed it, it will grow. Appreciate your attention today. I want to end this, just show you a little something about what this school's all about, some of the people in it, and how you can be impacted.
Bring your tithe and bring your shame. Bring your guilt and bring your pain. Don't you know that's not your name. You will always be much more to me. And every day I wrestle with the voices that keep telling me I'm not right. But that's alright, 'cause I hear a voice and he calls me every day. When others say I'll never be enough, and greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. Bring your doubts, bring your fears, bring your hurt, and bring your tears. There'll be no condemnation here. You are holy, righteous, and redeemed. And every time I fall, there'll be those who will call me a mistake. Well, that's okay, 'cause I hear a voice and he calls me every day. When others say I'll never be enough, and greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. He's greater. There'll be days I lose the battle. Grace says that it doesn't matter, 'cause the cross already won the war. I'm learning to run freely, understanding just how he sees me, and it makes me love him more and more. He's greater. There'll be days I lose the battle. Grace says that it doesn't matter, 'cause the cross already won the war. I'm learning to run freely, understanding just how he sees me, and it makes me love him more and more. 'Cause I hear a voice and he calls me every day. When others say I'll never be enough, and greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. In the world. In the world. And greater is the one living inside of me than he who is living in the world. There'll be days I lose the battle. Grace says that it doesn't matter, 'cause the cross already won the war. He's greater. He's greater. I'm learning to run freely, understanding just how he sees me, and it makes me love him more and more. God is greater than he who is living in the world.
Tell you what, when you got those kind of people supporting you, and those kind of people telling you to say yes, there's no doubt that you're going to see smiles on people's faces here. This place is changing. You're a big part of it. It takes one little spark to start a flame to start a fire, to get this place on fire with what you guys can do. You have a choice. We ask you to say yes. We ask you to say yes to the wonderful opportunities in the gymnasium. That's where we're going to head next. But before we leave, I want to thank you for your time. I thank you for your excellent behavior. I know it's not easy to sit here and listen to this, especially when you got some adults talking to you who are sharing some life stories, some answers in a very special moment in their life. But first of all, let's give a big round of applause for Mr. Trell. And with one is too small of a number for greatness. So here's your opportunity to go out and serve others. Thank you. Make a good choice.